Hi guys, this is the Shumero Carlos. On tonight's video, I'm gonna give you my review of Sam Raimi's and Sony Pictures' first, second, 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 the second, the second, sorry, the second outing of Sam Raimi, the second, the second, the second outing of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. Yes, Spider-Man. Spider-Man 2. So here we go, guys. I really enjoyed this sequel to the original Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire because we get to go see, or we see, our favorite nerd from New York, Peter Parker basically don the mask, don the suit, don the Spider-Man suit again, and we see Tobey Maguire reprise his role as our beloved favorite neighbor slash favorite neighbor that we want to have if we were living in New York. Peter Parker slash Spider-Man. But this time, Peter has to face off with Doctor Octopus. And this is how Peter faces off with Dr. Octopus in this second movie. First, it's been, according to the movie timeline, it has been about three years, or probably more than 3 years, or approximately 2 to 3 years since Mr. Norman Osborn, Harry Osborn's father, Peter's best friend's father died, aka better known as the Green Goblin. Now, at the end of the first movie, we saw, as you many have seen, and I have seen, that Peter as Spider-Man drops off the lifeless body of Mr. Norman Osborn to Harry while Harry's at his father's house, and this gives Harry the idea that Spider-Man, Peter himself as Spider-Man, has killed or murdered his father, Mr. Norman Osborn, aka the Green Goblin. But in the second movie, we see that Harry still doesn't know that Spider-Man and Peter are the same person. Are the same person. So that's one of the parts that make this second movie of the Sam Raimi trilogy of Spider-Man intriguing, in my view, because Harry doesn't know that the guy that he wants to kill with his bare hands and murder and assassinate is in fact his best friend. Of course, like I said, Harry doesn't know this. Doesn't know that Spider-Man and his best friend Peter Parker are the same person. Is the same person as Spider-Man. I mean, that's incredible. The second thing that that happens in this movie is that we meet Dr. Octavius, a very smart son, a very intelligent and a great scientist who Harry introduces to who Harry introduces to Peter. Harry introduces Dr. Octavius to Peter because Harry has taken over his father's dwindling and disastrous technology company, Oscorp. At the time of the first movie, we see that Oscorp is going up in flames thanks to the U.S. military saying that Oscorp's technology is obsolete for the U.S. military. And like I said in my review of the first movie of Spider-Man, that made Mr. Osborn very mad, and that made him drink the green potion that turned his personality into the wonderful and evil part of himself that is the Green Goblin. But anyway, at this time, Harry has uplifted or has given his dad's obsolete company, Oscorp, a facial or a facelift. If you're into beauty, products, guys, girls, if you're into beauty products, girls and guys, girls. So, how does Harry do this? I'm guessing that he has bought back his father's company, Oscorp, from the board of directors. The board of directors that said to his father, Norman Osborn, that they were going to sell the company in the first movie. And that again made Mr. Norman Osborn, Harry's father, very mad, and you know the rest of the story. Just like I told you a couple of minutes ago, just like I preceded in telling you. So, how does Harry gain more money, more cash for more intrigue for his company, for his father's company? Dr. Octavius. Yes, that same doctor that Harry introduced to Peter. So Harry sees Dr. Octavius as his new scientific superstar. His John Belushi. John Belushi without Dan Aykroyd from the Blues Brothers. Without Dan Aykroyd in the equation as a very good commodity. And how do you get a good commodity? By making or giving Dr. Octavius money to do his experiments. In this case, Dr. Octavius is making is made with his wife Lily Octavius, Dr. Lily Octavius, a nuclear solar powered generator. Yes, that is eco-friendly, eco-friendly. Again, eco-friendly, because Dr. Octavius thinks that we're not, that New Yorkers and all the around the world, electricity will be obsolete in the future. So he makes this with the help of his wife Lily Octavius, Dr. Lily Octavius, and the generator works great. Works very good. It works great, but for it to work, Dr. Octavius needs a nuclear solar crystal. That's how I'm gonna call it. That powers with obviously electricity that powers the generator. And if it and it's very eco-friendly. So according to Dr. Octavius. So when Harry introduces Peter to Dr. Octavius, Peter to Dr. Octavius, Dr. Octavius is basically, he says, hey, he sees potential in Peter. So Dr. Octavius takes Peter kind of under his wing as his pupil. So Dr. Octavius asks Peter some questions, and he basically some scientific questions. Then they start talking about the Dr. Octavius's solar powered generator, and as when Dr. Octavius asked him some other scientific questions, Dr. Octavius was impressed by Peter when Peter said, "Oh, Dr. Octavius, I know your work. I have read papers about your work," and that impresses Dr. Octavius. So Dr. Octavius invites Peter to a demonstration of his solar crystal powered generator with of course including other newspapers from New York, including the paper that Peter works for, which is the Daily Bugle. But during the presentation, the nuclear generator something goes wrong. So it malfunctions, and that malfunction is that the solar crystal powered generator basically has its own gravitational pull. It makes its own gravitational pull, and and it and it and it can be stopped. And it can be stopped. According to Dr. Octavius, during the calamity, he says it will soon stop. It will soon stop, but it doesn't. It doesn't. And what causes the solar powered generator to malfunction is a little paper clip or clip, whatever you want to call it, that Peter sees on the ground while Dr. Octavius is explaining what the solar powered generator is going to do, and before he could actually turn it on and basically demonstrate so the newspaper from the newspapers from New York and the Daily Bugle could see it. So while the nuclear generator's doing its scientific magic, Peter sees this paperclip on the ground on the showing floor of the show building, and he tries to grab it, but before he could grab it, or before he could get his hands on it, the gravitational pull of the generator that the malfunction causes pulls the little paperclip towards the nuclear generator, and it hits the solar crystal that powers the whole generator. So the generator. So after the paperclip hits, or the clip, whatever you want to call it, hits the solar crystal, the generator goes crazy by pulling everything that is metal, and everything that is strong and unpullable to any for any normal human being, unless you have the strength of 1,000 men, like for example glass. Yes, the gravitational pull, the malfunctioning solar powered crystal generator that Dr. Octavius built himself pulls glass from windows of the show from the windows of the show building that actually hit one of the windows breaks. The glass of one of the windows of the show building breaks, and it tragically hits Dr. Lily Octavius, which is Dr. Octavius's wife, and she basically dies there, right there and there. At this time, Peter is already dressed up as Spider-Man, and he begs or pleads with Dr. Octavius to turn off the generator. But Dr. Octavius is still insisting that the gravitational pull, or the pull of the pull that the crowd of reporters are feeling, and spectators that are feeling and seeing the generator work, he says to Spider-Man, "It will stop. It will stop. I know it. I know it will. I know it will." But it doesn't stop. So Peter doing the smart and heroic thing as Spider-Man, unplugs the generator. Unplugs the generator. But Dr. Octavius had, or has, a chest vest, a special chest vest that he built himself, that he made for himself, that has robotic arms that look like tentacles. So that he controls these arms, that these type of tentacle looking arms that Dr. Octavius has attached to his chest, thanks to the vest that he created, that he made for himself to do extra stuff that he can't handle just with two hands. He controls these robotic type tentacle arms with a chip that is implanted in his neck. But when Peter unplugs when Peter tries to unplug the generator, he pulls too hard, or the gravitational pull is at its peak strength, and it can't be stopped. And Dr. Octavius can't believe that he can't stop saying to himself, "Oh my God, just stop. I know you can stop. I know you will stop." But he's in denial. After he said it will stop itself, and it will decrease. The pull will decrease. It will decrease in time. But he can't. But he's in denial. So when Peter pulls the plug, he pulls the plug so hard that the generator plug it blows sparks fly, and the pull is so strong that it basically explodes on itself. Yes, the gravitational pull that the generator malfunction created itself because of that little paper clip or clip. It causes the generator to explode, and the reporters, including Peter from the Daily Bugle that he's working for, he has to be pulled out, just like his fellow reporters from his competition newspapers. And one of the people that was one of the and of course one of the people that had to be pulled out was Harry. And just before just as the solar power generator was going crazy and pulling everything in sight towards itself because of its strong gravitational pull that it had because of the malfunction, or because of that little paperclip going into the solar crystal, Harry was about to be pulled into the gravitational pull, and he was about to die. But thankfully Peter, dressed up as Spider-Man, he pulled him to safety. And of course, Harry wasn't too happy about this. So we see Harry saying, "You shouldn't have saved me. You murder. Now I will have to thank you, or I will owe you my life, even if I hate you with all my guts." So Harry's pulled from the collapsed show building, and he says to one of Oscorp's advisors that thanks to this generator that Dr. Octavius built, my Oscorp is ruined, and Oscorp's newly regained credibility is going to collapse. And my self-image as Harry Osborn is going to be besmirched. So then during the pickup, then at the hospital, we see Dr. Octavius in the operating room with the vest that he built that has these robotic tentacle-like arms. He's laying on his stomach, and surgeons from the local hospital are trying to cut off the mechanical arms, but the mechanical arms, thanks to the solar powered generator disaster, the chip that Dr. Octavius had on the back of his neck that controlled the arms was fried to a golden fried chicken crisp. It looked like the chip looked like a badly cooked fried chicken. And since Dr. Octavius was in the hospital bed on the operating table and still unconscious or knocked out because he was sedated, these robotic arms have a mind of its own, have a mind of their own, and they start killing they start killing the surgeons that are trying to help Dr. Octavius. But I'm getting but Dr. Octavius somehow they're connected to his cerebral cortex. Yes, cerebral cortex, the part of the brain that controls your body movement, unconsciously, and of course when he wakes up from the attempted surgery that never happened to take off his robotic tentacle type robotic arms didn't succeed or hadn't begun. Now the robotic arms were a part of his body permanently for life. He would have his robotic arms attached to his body for the rest of his life. And of course, the only person that he could blame for this is our beloved and good old friend Spider-Man, also known as Peter. So now, as you could imagine, Peter has two enemies. One wants to kill his other self. One of his enemies is actually his best friend, who doesn't know that he's Spider-Man, and the other enemy that he has made is one of his mentors turn into a tentacle robotic freak, a tentacle robotic super genius slash villain who blames him for having these robotic arms that make this second enemy that Peter has created for himself into a worse, basically another problem for himself. And poor Peter. And that's not all. His relationship with Mary Jane Watson, or Mary Jane, his favorite, the girl of his dreams, his neighbor, hasn't talked. They're not on speak. They're in a distant relationship. What I mean by distant relationship is that Peter's still around Mary Jane, but he watches from distant. Or he watches from distant because he has to be Spider-Man and he can't be himself. And Peter is every time that he has to do a job or anything, or if he has to go to an appointment or a job, he comes to the job late. And that's very typical of Peter. Very typical and very normal for Peter, because he comes late to a job or to the Daily Bugle, late because he's been web slinging around as Spider-Man. But Mary Jane, according to the timeline of the movie, has done very well for herself. She's now into theater. She's in a critically acclaimed play that according to critics is very good, and the people that have watched it are are Aunt May, Peter's aunt, and of course Harry Osborn, Peter's best friend, who again wants to kill him because Peter's Spider-Man. Peter's Spider-Man, and of course Spider-Man killed, according to Harry's father, Mr. Norman Osborn. So the only person that hasn't seen Mary Jane's play, critically acclaimed play, is Peter, and she has tried. She has tried. She hasn't seen Peter at the theater. So one night after web slinging, Peter's walking the sidewalk at night, and he bumps into Mary Jane, and Mary Jane is like, hey Peter, but she's, hey Peter, I thought you were my best friend, and quite frankly, I thought you really cared about me, and I really cared. And Mary Jane says, I care, and you know how I feel about you, and I told you that I loved you, but again, you rejected me. But Peter had to reject Mary Jane's I love you, because, as we all know, Peter doesn't want to put Mary Jane's life in danger when he's Spider-Man, and of course, if Mary Jane finds out that Peter is Spider-Man, that would put Mary Jane in more danger, because that would give the bad guys, aka, in this case, that would give Dr. Octopus, aka Dr. Octavius, a tool to just suck in Peter's emotion, get Peter's blood boiling, and make him mad, and that would just make Dr. Octavius, that would make Peter mad, and that would make Peter to turn into Spider-Man, and therefore Dr. Octavius would know that Peter is actually Spider-Man. But anyway, so after giving this impassioned speech to Peter, Mary Jane is like tired of hearing excuses from Peter when he says, sorry I'm late, sorry that I'm late. But during this conversation that Peter's having with Mary Jane, Peter says, I will come and see your play. I will come and see your play. But of course, Peter tries to come at the time that the play is actually happening. But of course, New York needs Spider-Man, and at this time, at the same time, Peter's powers are failing him. Peter's Spider-Man powers are failing him, because I'm guessing he's having. I'm guessing that his body. his body is so stressed out from turning into Spider-Man Spider-Man and turning back into himself, which is Peter Parker. So I'm guessing his body told his powers, his Spidey powers, not to work anymore for a period of time, so for a period of time, so when Peter is done being Spider-Man, he goes to the auditorium where the play is being played at. But of course, Peter, in his same as a cup of tea, he's late to the play, and he asks the valet of the auditorium to let him in, and he says, Miss Watson, Mary Jane, invited me, but the valet says sorry, sir, you cannot enter. The only way to enter is when the auditorium doors are open, and the auditorium doors are now closed. So Peter goes outside the auditorium, and he sees Mary Jane from a distance, and then he sees a guy walking up to Mary Jane and give Mary Jane a kiss, and he thinks, and of course Peter at this time thinks that this guy is her new boyfriend, which in fact that new boyfriend is J. Jonah Jameson's son, who's an astronaut. Yes, Peter's boss son at the Daily Bugle's son, J. Jonah Jameson's son, is Mary Jane's new boyfriend. So of course Peter's crushed by seeing this. But he gets crushed even more when J. Jonah Jameson's son says at a very fancy dinner, or a very fancy fundraiser for a mission that he has to go on. When J. Jonah Jameson's son says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to my soon to be wife, Mary Jane Watson." And at that moment, our poor Peter Parker / good old neighbor Spider-Man is crushed. His heart is basically in pieces. So he's dealing with a lot. And in fact, during the first fight with Dr. Octavius, during his first fight with Dr. Octavius, he had to save his Aunt May. Peter had to save his Aunt May as Spider-Man from falling from the bank building that they went to get a loan from Dr. Octavius. And of course, Aunt May was freaked. Of course, Aunt May was afraid of falling to her death, thanks to Dr. Octopus. But of course, Spider-Man saved the day. And started his first fight with Dr. Octavius, which was pretty cool. Peter, as Spider-Man, basically threw a web that blinded Dr. Octavius, and basically he fell, but Dr. Octavius fell, but he was able to catch himself, and he said to Peter, we will meet again. We will meet again, Peter. We will meet again. We will meet again, Spider-Man. We will meet again, Spider-Man. We will meet again, Spider-Man. So that was the end of the first of Spider-Man, Peter's first fight as Spider-Man with Dr. Octopus. Then later on in the movie, Dr. Octavius, during this whole time, Dr. Octavius wants to rebuild his scientific baby. His solar powered generator. And to do that, he needs another solar crystal. Another solar crystal. And the one person that he knows that has a new solar crystal, the one person that has that Dr. Octavius that Dr. Octavius knows that has this solar crystal is, of course, Harry Osborn. So Dr. Octavius Dr. Octavius goes to Harry's house, which is his father's old house, and Dr. Octavius says, "Hey, Osborn, I need a new solar crystal. I want to build my generator again." But Harry says, "I'll give you the solar crystal that you want if you bring me Spider-Man. If you bring me Spider-Man, and you bring him to me so I could kill him and unmask him. Unmask Spider-Man and kill him." And of course, Dr. Octavius says yes, but he says yes for a bit. Then Dr. Octavius, Dr. Octopus, aka better known as Dr. Octavius, says, I want my solar crystal for my solar powered generator now. So Harry says, no, no. The deal is you bring me Spider-Man first. You bring him to me alive, so I can unmask him and kill him. And that makes Dr. Octopus very, very angry. And of course, Dr. Octopus starts to say very threatening things to Harry, and of course, Harry relents and gives Dr. Octopus, the solar crystal that he wants. So then we see Peter and Mary Jane at a cafe having a chat about Peter is having a conversation with Mary Jane. And like I said, since Peter had lost his power, he's having some difficulty with his powers, he decided to take a sabbatical. He's like, maybe I should retire. Maybe I should retire and stop being Spider-Man. Stop being Spider-Man. But of course, New Yorkers need Spider-Man. In fact, in one scene during the movie, Peter goes into a burning building just like in the first one, but except in this burning building scene, he doesn't web in as Spider-Man. He webs in as himself, Peter Parker, and saves a little girl from this new burning building. So thanks to Peter losing his powers, having trouble with his Spider-Man powers, he decides to take a break as Spider-Man, and he's enjoying life, normal non-Spider-Man life, and he goes to see Mary Jane's play finally, and Mary Jane sees Peter at the auditorium, and she smiles at him while she's doing the play, and her scene partner gives his line to her character, to Mary Jane's character, and poor Mary Jane's castmate in the scene is like to Mary Jane's character that she's playing in the play, say your line, but of course Mary Jane is smiling at Peter, and that's it. The play goes great, and Mary Jane is happy that Peter made it to the play. So going back to the conversation, this conversation that Peter is about to have with Mary Jane is very, 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 very uncomfortable, but necessary for him to have with Mary Jane, because this conversation will be that will be about that Peter has to go back to the way things were. Basically, he will have to go back, be Spider-Man, and save us. Save us. Save New York, save his fellow New Yorkers and Mary Jane herself from any trouble. But during the conversation, Mary Jane says to Peter, I know you love me. I know you love me. I know you love me. I love you too. I love you too. I know you love me, Peter. Why don't you tell me what's stopping you from telling me that you love me, which I know you do. And of course, Peter can't tell her why he can't say I love you back to her, because of course that would put her in danger. Because if he tells her that he's Spider-Man, that would put her in danger. And of course, then Dr. Octopus comes out of nowhere, or comes toward the ground starts shaking. The ground starts shaking in the street near the cafe, and it trembles, and that means that Dr. Octopus is getting close. Is getting close to the cafe. So Dr. Octavius says to Peter, hey Parker, hey Parker, you know where Spider-Man is. And of course Peter is saying to Dr. Octopus, no, I don't know where Spider-Man is. People are saying that he's retired. And of course, Dr. Octavius says you're lying. And of course, just like in the first movie, Dr. Octavius decides to destroy everything in sight and kidnap or capture Mary Jane. But during the deal that Dr. Octopus and Harry Osborn made between Harry Osborn and Dr. Octavius had with themselves, or concocted themselves between themselves. Harry told Dr. Octopus to get Peter where it hurts. Get Peter in his heart. If you get Peter in his heart, he will tell you where Spider-Man is, because he's Spider-Man's photographer. So of course, the only way that Dr. Octopus can get Peter's attention is by A, destroying everything in sight, and of course kidnapping or capturing Mary Jane. And he does that with one of his robotic tentacle arms. And so during the climactic fight, Mary Jane is chained up to a steel beam, steel beam, steel beam, steel beam, steel beam. That Doctor a steel beam, that steel beam, a steel beam from the old show building that's where Dr. Octavius is rebuilding his his solar power generator, or Dr. Octopus is building his solar power generator. So Mary Jane is chained up to a beam from the collapsed, or Dr. Octavius build back. He reconstructed the old show building, and that's where he has kept kept working on the solar power generator. So Mary Jane is all chained up to the newly rebuilt show building, and of course Spider-Man shows up, and of course Dr. Octopus at this time is working on turning his solar powered generator on, before Dr. Octavius hurts before Dr. Octopus hurts anyone else, Peter as Spider-Man fights Dr. Octopus, and it's a very good fight. It's one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. But in the end of the fight, Peter defeats Dr. Octopus, and he saves Mary Jane, but the solar power generator that Dr. Octopus was working on was going crazy again, and was going to blow the whole city of New York, again, the whole city of New York up again to a big kaboom. So of course Peter had tried to stop it, but he doesn't know how to turn the generator off. And of course the only one that knows how to turn off the generator is Dr. Octopus himself, Dr. Octavius. So, and by the way, Peter is fights with Dr. Octavius without his mask. Yes, without his mask. Without his Spider-Man mask. So at this point, Mary Jane hasn't seen Peter's face. But when Mary Jane sees that Spider-Man is actually Peter, she's very happy, and Peter's kind of in shock, and he's kind of like saying, "Oh no, now Mary Jane is going to be in more danger now that she knows my secret." So the only person that can stop the solar power generator is Dr. Octopus himself. Dr. Octavius. And of course, Dr. Octavius is underwater, or almost under. His body's half of his body's underwater, and his head is up. It's not covered. It's not underwater, but the water is up to his neck. And he says to Peter, Parker, I'll stop the generator. I'll stop the generator. And one thing that Dr. Octavius's robotic hands do is manipulate. They manipulate Dr. Octavius to do evil deeds. That's hence Dr. Octopus. So Dr. Octavius says to Peter, I'll stop the generator myself. And he says, and Peter says, Dr. Octavius, no, Dr. Octavius, you're going to die. No, and Dr. Octavius says, go, Peter, get yourself to safety, of course with Mary Jane. And right when Dr. Octavius is pulling the generator towards himself from a platform that he built himself towards him, he says, I don't want to be remembered as a monster. I want to be remembered as a hero. And so Dr. Octavius pulls his own creation towards himself off the platform that he made for it, and the platform and the generator and Dr. Octavius himself drown. And right before the climactic fight, Dr. Octopus kept his part of his deal with Harry Osborn. He took Spider-Man to Harry's father's house, to his father's old house, and that's where Harry discovered that Spider-Man and Peter Parker, that his best friend Peter Parker and Spider-Man are the same person. And of course, Harry is in shock. The person that he thinks killed his father, Spider-Man, is actually his best friend. And of course, Harry is in total shock. And who could blame him? And he says, no, and he's like in denial. No, it can't be true. You can't be Spider-Man. And as we all know, it's true. Peter and Spider-Man are the same person. So tragically, Dr. Octavius drowns with his own creation. Drowns, but he saves many lives by drowning himself with his own creation, with his own creation his solar powered generator. Then we see Peter and Mary Jane on or stuck to a spider web that, of course, Peter weaved very well and very in a very romantic way, like in a very romantic way, and they're stuck. And both Mary Jane, and of course Peter are stuck to the spider web, and they have a heart-to-heart conversation where Peter says, Mary Jane, I love you, but we can't be together. The people, you and the people of New York need Spider-Man. And of course, Mary Jane is happy Mary Jane is happy that she found out that Peter and Spider-Man are the same person. And Mary Jane says to Peter, we can work things out. But of course Peter says, no, Mary Jane, you need to go and marry J. Jonah Jameson's son, astronaut son. And of course, in a true act of love, Mary Jane and Peter say, I love you too. I love you to each other, and they just say goodbye forever. Goodbye. A final goodbye. But in a twist of fate, Mary Jane leaves J. Jonah Jameson's son at the altar and goes to Peter's apartment and says, I can't live without you, Peter. And Peter of course is shocked to see Mary Jane at his doorstep, or at his apartment door, and he says, well, Mary Jane, what are you doing here? You can't be here. And of course Mary Jane says, I can't live without you. I can't live without you, Peter. We can work. I know that life is going to get strange and dangerous for me, but we can face the danger, this crazy new life for me. For this crazy life together, and that's the end of the movie. Well, not quite, because right before the end of the movie, of course, police sirens start to go off. Peter hears police sirens, and of course, Mary Jane says, "Go get them, Tiger." And that's the end of the movie, guys. So guys, let me leave a like, and let me know what was your favorite part of of Sam Raimi's and Sony Pictures Spider-Man 2. Bye.